to the movies.
We watched Unhinged. So
This is an older movie.
This
Not
is
like an old movie.
But it was so ridiculous. I was like, we have to come on here and do a review. Plus, it's recently became available on Amazon Prime. So you might be like, what do I want to watch this movie starring Russell Crowe? This came out during the pandemic at the movie theaters. Or when the movie theaters reopened, I don't know. I can't exactly remember, but I remember when it came out, and I remember being like, I think I'll pass on this movie. But then the other night, we wanted to watch something we didn't really have to think a lot about. We were like, well, here's this movie with Russell Crowe. So Russell Crowe plays somebody who in the time of the movie that moment takes place is suffering from, road rage, but I feel like there's something else going on.
Perhaps.
A mother going through a divorce and, her life's kind of hectic. Maybe her life's a little chaotic. Gets in an altercation, honks her horn at this guy. And then more chaos unfolds in her life for the, few hours of her day that this whole thing takes place. And things escalate quite quickly. Kelsey, go wait or skip.
This movie's terrible. I would say to skip this movie, except that it's so terrible that I've kind of enjoyed thinking about how terrible it is. Even while it was happening, I was like, this is bad, really bad. And so bad that I would guess things, say funny things that might happen later in the movie, and they would happen. You know what I mean? It was a joke that it might happen, but it happened. So, also, Russell Crowe apparently gained a significant amount of weight to be in this movie, and or just had happened to gain a significant amount of weight. I don't know, but it was interesting. It was quite shocking to me, in fact.
To see Russell Crowe?
Yeah, because I was like, is this really Russell Crowe? Yeah, it was crazy. This movie's terrible. The premise is dumb. The movie's dumb. And for that reason, I have to say skip it.
I'm also going to say skip on this movie, but like Kelsey, it was so utterly ridiculous that I find it hilarious that I watched it, and I'm not mad about it. So, there you go. It's not a very good movie, and let's get into spoilers.
Spoilers. Russell Crowe is gigantic in this movie.
Okay, you already said that.
Well, I was shocked by it, and then I read stories, so I Googled it, and then I'm like, they were like, oh, he's wearing a fat suit, and Oscar buzz, and I was like, this is before this movie came out. Anyway, so I'm like, was that a suit? And also, Oscar buzz for this movie? This movie was pretty bad. This movie's, I don't think anybody ever intended it to get Oscar buzz, right? It was not a good movie. The premise was dumb, and it delivered on its dumb qualities. It wasn't really...
Not unless you're coming at this for... If there was something I missed... So I often will say this to Kelsey, that maybe I just missed something because I'm the kind of person... I have a hard time reading poetry because it kind of goes over my head unless I can speak out loud about it to Kelsey, and sometimes I'll talk myself into understanding. But so was there something poetic about this movie, that there was something underneath that I missed?
It was more like a PSA for why you shouldn't long honk at people. But even that, I feel like that's pretty ridiculous. Like, if somebody doesn't go in a light and you get frustrated and honk at them, they're probably not going to try to kill you and, burn people to death and do all that crazy stuff. And in fact, even there were parts in this movie where I was like, why doesn't somebody just beat that dude's, why... People would just stand there while this person who didn't seemingly have any skills, he didn't have a gun or anything. You know what I mean? He was doing crazy stuff. And I was like, why doesn't somebody just punch that dude in the face? I don't understand this movie.
In a coffee shop.
Not one person could go over there?
Yeah, hurting somebody and eventually killing that person. And everybody just stood.
He was a big guy, but he was just big. It didn't look like, it wasn't like he was like Hulk Hogan or... You know what I mean? He wasn't Francis. Where was Francis Ngannou, UFC heavyweight champion? Imagine if he was in there.
Here was my thing with the movie. Isn't road rage a dated kind of concept? Not that people don't experience rage. I think we're all familiar with that across our country. But I think now we're like, oh, this isn't just limited to being on the road anymore. People are kind of experience rage all the time, and we've talked about people maybe being addicted to being outraged. But this movie was very much like road rage, and that just seemed like a really dated concept to me. And then, so by the end of the movie, this guy basically demands an apology from this woman for not giving a courtesy tap. Instead, she like laid on her horn because he missed the green light, and she refused to apologize, and he was like, all right. Now, get this. The movie opens with him murdering and burning what we assume, because he was playing with the wedding ring, his wife and maybe her new family. I don't know. So he's a fugitive. That's the other thing. He did this like across a few hours, terrorized this woman in a fit of road rage, but he was already in a rage. And somehow, like, I don't understand how law enforcement wasn't involved sooner.
Well, and here's the thing. That's how you know maybe we should have known it was going to be a bad movie. Because remember how long the intro was? And it had all these, like, basically the whole intro was set up to, like, teach you why this movie's plausible. Because the premise is so ridiculous, right? I mean, I'm like, why don't you just drive to a police station? Or what? I don't understand this woman's choices. And then I'm like, they're not, what state are they in? Like, I don't understand how this guy can just follow people around and not, do you see what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of strange things going on. Now, I will say, let me just
finish my thought, is that, so you have this man terrorizing this woman, chasing her all day, and then when the movie ends, like, she's driving away with her son, and somebody pulls out in front of her, and she almost honks, but then changes her mind, and her son goes, "Good choice, Mom." That's the end of the movie. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. You were being terrorized by a homicidal maniac.
And it was justified.
It was your fault. Because you pulled a long honk out on this guy at a light. Don't do that. Like, I was like, talk about some, like, really dysfunctional codependency here. That all of a sudden I'm responsible for homicidal maniacs.
Yeah, it's the craziest, dumbest thing. And yet, I don't know, like, I'm kind of glad I watched it. I mean, I apologized. It was my choice. I chose this movie. Like, I was like, let's watch this, you know? And then before it was over, I was like, hey, Rachel, sorry. You know what I mean? Because it was that bad. And yet. I'm going to
give you two things. Russell Crowe, he's got some charisma.
But see, like,
he's got some charisma. Like, he had to carry this awful movie.
He definitely is a great actor.
And he was a great, like, villain, right? Like, he carried this movie doing just awful, like, it was just ridiculous. Secondly, I will say, this involved a lot of, like, fast driving because she was being terrorized and chased in her car. It was suspenseful.
It was.
You know, like, the movie was scored well, where it kind of gave me this, like, kind of feeling throughout it. So I appreciated, like, both of those were good things.
Yeah. I mean, I feel strongly, very strongly, that Russell Crowe is way too good for this movie. And that he should never have been in this movie. I don't know how much they paid him, but I guess, I mean, it's fine. Like, who am I to say what Russell Crowe should and shouldn't do? But I'm saying that, like, I can't believe he made this movie.
I got two more things. I'm giving you things in pairs today. First, the truck Russell Crowe was driving for most of the movie had this, like, black, I don't know what they're called, but it like sits on top of the grill that was covering up the make of the car. It looked like a Ford truck to me, but I guess they didn't want their logo in the movie. That was surprising to me because it was prime advertisement space. And then secondly, so we talked about this movie.
You're homicidal manias.
We talked about at the end of this movie how it was kind of like, well, don't honk at somebody. You're responsible for that homicidal maniac. I'm going to say it also kind of shamed this woman for not being better organized, like in her own life. So her being like not punctual, you know, she was like, all her friends and family were like, oh, she's late all the time, she doesn't show up. She lost like a client because she was late. She woke up late. Like, it was a constant thing and people would be like but are you really going to be there? Are you going to show up? And she, oh, I promise. Like, she was, but I just want to put out there that not everybody, like, punctuality isn't everybody's gift. And you don't deserve to be terrorized by a homicidal maniac because you're not punctual.
Yeah.
And, like, her life was in chaos. Lots of people's lives go through chaos. And again, they don't deserve to be terrorized by a homicidal maniac or have their loved ones murdered.
I agree. Yeah, or like burned alive.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So the movie does have some questionable, like,
also,
elements.
I just don't understand. If in real life, here's the other thing. It's not realistic. In real life, let's say you lose your mind and go on a homicidal mania spree. You're going to run into the wrong dude or the wrong lady. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to run into somebody who's, like, packing heat or, like, they're a UFC fighter. Remember what's her face? Viviana?
Yeah.
Who, that guy, like, tried to jump on her and she's a UFC fighter. And she just beat the crap out of that guy. That's going to happen. There's a lot more people. What I'm saying is, and it's depicted in movies a lot, like everybody out there is like weak and like a sheep and like easy to like knock down. That isn't like that in real life, and you definitely cannot tell with your eyes who can beat your butt in a fight. And like he would run into the wrong dude, I think.
Well, lady too. I mean, I thought at the coffee shop, I was like, why are people not like ganging up on him? Like 20 against 1. Because I got to tell you, it would be super hard for me in that situation not to be like kind of up in the middle of it, or at least distracting him, like playing a matador. That's often how I see myself in my fantasies of like, I'm going to distract the homicidal maniac so he doesn't continue to murder this guy at this table right here. But nobody did anything. I saw somebody filming it on their phone. I was like, cool, dude. Is anybody calling the cops? I mean, there were just how law enforcement wasn't able to find this guy. They were looking for a homicidal maniac in a gray pickup truck. Yet this guy terrorized like multiple like people over a course of half a day, seemingly like just with no obstacles.
Yeah, it's strange.
He just had free reign. Strange
movie for strange times. Wasn't very good, but and yet I did enjoy it a little bit. So I don't know.
It makes me laugh. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time, that's Rachel. I'm Kelsey, and this is how we end our show.
This is how we end our show, because we've done it several times now. Where I'm like, see you next time, and then you do that same voice.
Until next time.